The United States currently possesses the most powerful navy on the global scale. The USN consists of about 334,000 active duty personnel, including 69,000 women serving as officers and enlisted members. Life in the Navy is exceptionally demanding and challenging. It takes the efforts and experiences of both women and men working together to serve their country. But what if the US somehow one day decided to basically fire all men from the Navy? Ever wondered what would happen and what consequences would occur? Would the United States Navy still hold its prowess in the world by being estrogen-friendly and kicking all testosterones out of their ships? Or would this women-exclusive Navy be crushed by every other Navy in the world? Keep watching this video, and we'll answer all of these questions. First things first, in the grand scheme of things, the idea of an American Navy, or any Navy in general, to only have women in service is kinda impossible in the real world. Unless, of course, one day all males living on Earth suddenly disappeared, or they got abducted by aliens. But until then, we can assure you that this idea simply can't be manifested in our timeline. But let's imagine one day this idea came to light. The United States Navy decided to test the ice on breaking all stereotypes and proving that women are capable of solely operating a $200 billion superpower Navy. Oh boy, let me tell you, enforcing a gender-exclusive policy like that would face significant opposition and controversy both within and outside the military. Such a policy would likely trigger backlash from men and even women themselves. The entry of women into the U.S. Navy, particularly in combat roles, has historically faced challenges and sometimes elicited resentment from male counterparts. Legislation allowing women into the military was only passed in 1948, yet progress towards combat roles was gradual. It wasn't until the 1990s that women were permitted to fly combat missions or serve on Navy combat ships. This transition was met with varying degrees of acceptance and resistance from some male service members. From enthusiastic nods to perplexed eyebrow raises and a few expressions like, "Wait, what? Women in the Navy? I thought this was a boys-only club." So for women to take over the entire American Navy, men would probably not raise just their eyebrows. This idea would encounter legal challenges and public scrutiny, potentially damaging the structural cohesion within the Navy. I mean, can you imagine the shitstorm that would face the decision-makers of this policy? There probably would be protests and riots of all sorts to change this decision. Throughout mankind, there has never been a single instance where any Navy in the world consisted of only women. Even with other branches of the military, men had the bigger portion of activity duty personnel and ready for combat soldiers. Of course, you can't deny the involvement of women in various war scenarios throughout history, like the Russian women's battalions in World War I or the Dahomey Amazons. But we're not talking about infantry battalions or wars fought between musketeers. We're talking about operating the largest navy in the world with its many components. It would be the first time in history that a Navy outcasted all men from service. It would definitely not be within societal norms, and with the hundreds of thousands of people who would lose their jobs due to this decision, we can predict major uprisings in the United States. Not to mention that the U.S. Navy operates under federal laws and regulations that prohibit discrimination based on gender. Barring males from serving in the Navy solely based on gender would violate these principles and legal frameworks. Sorry, ladies. But you know what? Let's imagine together a timeline where the ladies took over the U.S. Navy without all of that nasty backlash that would come their way during the aftermath. In a practical sense, how would this affect Navy operations, and would the U.S. Navy survive in such a scenario? The rough estimates of current personnel in the U.S. Navy is around 334,000 people. About 18% to 20% make up the female portion of the Navy, whereas 267,000 sailors are all male, or about 80% of the entire U.S. Navy. If the Navy suddenly went ultra-woke and decided to get rid of all the men and leave them out of service, hundreds of thousands of people would instantly get unemployed. This would lead to a disaster, as most of the sailors and officers' families depend on the said positions to survive. This will no doubt increase the unemployment rate significantly for men, which is kinda going in shambles right now anyway, because of the recession, etc. The US Navy would have no option but to recruit a crap ton of new people, all females of course, to meet the necessities and maintain effectiveness. Achieving these recruitment goals presents severe and several challenges. Firstly, the pool of potential recruits must meet harsh and demanding physical tests to determine whether the new recruits are capable of withstanding combat climates. There are also tests done to examine intelligence, problem-solving abilities, and logistical skills as well. Don't get me wrong, so many women would pass these difficult tests, but the thing is, leaving men entirely out of the equation would make this mission of recruiting newer people more difficult and longer than anyone can bear. The American Navy can of course reduce the number of personnel and therefore mitigate the excessive need for new recruits. But that would come at a very great cost. You see, because the United States operates the biggest, most baddest navy in the world, currently of course, China's catching up really fast, it would need to dismantle and sacrifice hundreds of military vessels and ships, submarines, and even aircraft carriers. The Navy projects its power with an impressive fleet of about 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers carrying hundreds, if not thousands, of fighter jets of all types, with around 500 warships and submarines as well. Let's not forget that the US is planning to expand its fleet with even more cool stuff in the future. So if the Navy decided to instead reduce the number of personnel and therefore reduce the numbers of ships and submarines, etc., you can then wave goodbye to those trillions of taxpayer dollars spent, as they would get flushed in the toilet. One positive thing about this, though, is that this new recruitment policy would encourage thousands of women to answer the call of duty and to face the many challenges that await them during their time in the Navy. Young women would probably find purpose and feel the responsibility of serving their country and filling the empty gap that was created. As for men, though, we don't know exactly what male sailors would be doing without being enlisted in the Navy anymore. Perhaps they would be playing War Thunder Masters of the Sea! All jokes aside, this aim towards having a female-only Navy would have significant cultural shifts in the United States. But what about the military aspect of things? What impact does this shift have on naval operations? And could the United States Navy hold its prowess amongst other superpowers like Russia and China, or would it be dragged into a more vulnerable position? In current times, women serve many positions in the Navy, just like men. They take up the roles and excel at being pilots and naval flight officers, flying various aircraft, including fighter jets, helicopters, and transport planes. They can be found on board vessels and aircraft carriers in engineering, navigation, communication, and combat information center roles, operating and maintaining the complex systems that keep running smoothly and effectively. Female sailors have proven themselves to be capable of operating various advanced components that the Navy has. Since 2015, the U.S. Navy has encouraged women to join and support the submarine force, with the first enlisted female earning her Dolphins, which is basically the submarine warfare insignia that is worn only by qualified submariners. On March 7, 1994, the U.S. Navy assigned the first woman to serve on a combatant ship. The crew of the USS Eisenhower, composed of both men and women, took part in several major operations that year: Uphold Democracy in the Caribbean, Southern Watch in the Arabian Gulf, and Deny, Flight Provide, Promise, and Sharp Guard in the Mediterranean. Women are vital to the Navy because they often excel in skills that are crucial in complex and high-pressure environments, like communication and multitasking. Women's strong communication abilities enhance coordination and information flow, which is essential for mission success. Additionally, multitasking is a key competency in the dynamic setting of naval operations, where simultaneous management of multiple tasks and quick decision-making are required. These strengths make women indispensable in various roles within the Navy, contributing to a more versatile and capable force. Women also have proven their skills and capabilities in various leading positions in the Navy. Did you know that the Lincoln aircraft carrier has been commanded by a female captain since 2023? Captain Amy Bauernschmidt made history as the first woman to command a U.S. Navy aircraft carrier, taking the helm of the USS Abraham Lincoln. Her groundbreaking achievement represents a significant milestone in the ongoing effort to promote gender equality within the military. A graduate of the United States Naval Academy, Bauernschmidt's career is marked by her dedication and exceptional leadership skills. All of this sounds good and all, but what about the impacts of only making females operate the entirety of the USN? There is a big difference between integrating women within the Navy and making the Navy be all women. Heads up, because we're about to get deeper into some conversational topics. We'll try to stay as objective as possible and only present the opinions of experts in the field, so keep that in mind. It's clear that female sailors, pilots, and officers are capable, like men, of operating various jobs in the Navy, demonstrating competence, skill, and dedication across many roles. Women have proven themselves in technical, strategic, and leadership positions, contributing significantly to the success of naval missions. But what about when times get really tough? Do you get what I mean? Imagine a high-stakes scenario where a Navy vessel is under attack in a life-and-death situation, requiring quick, decisive action to defend against a powerful enemy. In such a critical moment, the controversial question arises, would women be capable of defending their country against naval armies led mostly by men? It's a difficult question that has different answers, based on different people. Some might argue that given their rigorous training, resilience, and commitment, there is every reason to believe that female Navy personnel would rise to the occasion, performing their duties with the same bravery and effectiveness as their male counterparts. While others don't think that this is the case, as naturally, male bodies are more physically capable than female bodies. This segment might trigger some feminists if they're somehow watching this, but here we go. Men are scientifically proven to be physically stronger than women due to differences in muscle characteristics. A study examined the bicep brachii and vastus lateralis muscles in 8 men and 8 women, measuring factors such as motor unit number, size, activation, and voluntary strength of the elbow flexors and knee extensors. Muscle fiber areas and types were determined using needle biopsies, while muscle areas were measured via computerized tomographic scanning. You don't have to understand all of this boring science. Just get this. The results from this study show that men were physically stronger than women. Men are also stronger relative to lean body mass. There were also studies and observations for many decades showing that hormones like testosterone play key roles in higher muscle mass and strength, characteristic of males compared with females. You also have the agility and endurance difference as well. In various sports, men run faster for longer distances. These differences in muscle size and fiber type contribute to the overall greater physical strength observed in men. That goes without saying that female crew members are one of the most fierce soldiers on the planet. They would still kick the average Joe's butt in a bar fight, no doubt about that. But the difference lies in that competitive nature during critical times in Navy operations. Let's break this down even further, and let's hear what the actual experts in the field have to say about this topic. According to a survey conducted from May through July in the year 2014, commando special units like the Navy SEALs had one and just one voice only that said, allowing women to serve in Navy SEAL, Army Delta, or other commando units could hurt their effectiveness and lower the standards. This survey was made by the Pentagon to see the different opinions that specialists in various Navy commando sectors have about whether they think women should enlist in these demanding jobs or not. Keep in mind, the survey only talked about the possibility of letting women in some of these critical units, and not about if the Navy consisted of only female members. But regardless, using this survey, we can determine that experts in the U.S. Navy who actually got deployed in multiple life or death scenarios, what they think about this hot conversational topic. Do female soldiers have the capability to get solutions for difficult challenges on their own when everything is on the line? More than 7,600 of America's Special Operations Forces responded to their survey, and it seems like they don't really care about political correctness or gender equality when it comes to their jobs, and believe women don't have the physical strength or mental toughness to do the grueling jobs. 80% of these men were biased enough to, I guess, straight up say, women aren't strong enough and can't handle the demands of the job. Another 60% said they aren't mentally tough enough. In critical wartime situations, this skepticism raises serious concerns about a Navy composed entirely of women. The physical demands of naval operations often involve carrying heavy equipment and enduring intense physical strain, tasks where the weight difference between men and women becomes significant. Men generally have more muscle mass and strength to carry heavier loads and sustain high-intensity activities for longer periods. You see, even though female Navy combatants go through the same rigorous training that men go through, even if they can knock me and you out cold in just a few seconds if they wanted to, in life and death scenarios where swift, decisive action and endurance are critical, these physical advantages that navies composed of mostly men have can be pivotal. Furthermore, the intense psychological pressure of combat requires exceptional mental resilience, a trait that some of these biased gentlemen who responded to the said survey believed that it is naturally lacking in women. These factors combined suggest that a Navy composed of women-only crew members, officers, commanders, and staff might struggle to survive and perform effectively in the most critical and physically demanding wartime situations. The implications of these challenges extend to the broader strategic context. In a hypothetical scenario where the U.S. Navy consisted solely of women, the Navy might be at a disadvantage against naval forces from other countries. Many foreign navies still rely heavily on male personnel. An all-female U.S. Navy could struggle to match the physical prowess and combat effectiveness of these traditional forces and potentially leading to strategic vulnerabilities. With that said, such a scenario could weaken the overall strength and deterrence capability of the U.S. Navy. While gender equality and the integration of women into all roles are commendable goals, the physical and mental demands of naval combat necessitate a balanced and inclusive force. Relying exclusively on female personnel could undermine the operational effectiveness of the Navy, leaving it vulnerable to being outperformed and potentially crushed by more traditionally composed naval forces from other countries. This imbalance could significantly weaken the U.S. Navy's ability to project power and maintain maritime superiority. It's that balanced effort between both men and women that makes a Navy powerful. The combination of strengths from both genders creates a more versatile and resilient force. Men typically bring greater physical strength and endurance essential for carrying heavy equipment and enduring prolonged physical exertion, while mixing it up sometimes with some good old overused dad jokes. Women, on the other hand, often excel in communication, collaboration, and multitasking, which are crucial for strategic planning and coordination during complex operations. This diverse skill set enhances the Navy's ability to adapt to various challenges and ensures a comprehensive approach to problem solving. Women in leadership positions inspire and mentor others, contributing to a more motivated and cohesive team. The balanced effort also reflects the values of equality and fairness, strengthening the moral and ethical foundation of the Navy. In combat scenarios, the combination of physical strength, mental resilience, strategic thinking, and effective communication is vital. Men and women working together can leverage their unique abilities to perform effectively under pressure, making the force more robust and capable. This has the job of ensuring that the Navy remains a formidable and adaptive entity, capable of facing any adversary with confidence and competence. But what do you guys think about this hot topic? Do you think a woman-based U.S. Navy would thrive, or would it not survive? Share us your thoughts down below. Let us know what you think about this topic, and while you're at it, please consider subscribing to the channel with the notification bell icon on to not miss any future Navy videos. Support us further by leaving a like on the video, and feel free to check more of our videos if you have spare time in your hands.